Good evening, and welcome to tonight's Zoning Board of Appeals hearing. Let me introduce some members of town government that assist this board. To my left is Martin Simon, Assistant Town Attorney. To his left is Blaise Donadio, Planner in the Planning Department. You are all here tonight seeking relief from the Smithtown zoning ordinances, and it's our job to try to help you achieve the relief you are requesting whenever possible. It's up to you to provide this board with precise and accurate information so we can make a decision based on the facts presented. This board must consider the 5 area variance considerations in order to render a decision, and they are as follows. They're posted up there for you. Number 1, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. Number 2, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance. Number 3, whether the requested area variance is substantial. Number 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. And number 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the board, but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the variance. Procedures for tonight's meeting. Cases will be called in the order they are advertised. When you are called, please present your certificates of postings and mailings to Mr. Donadio. Then you will be asked to go to the podium. We will state your name and address for the record and proceed to tell us why you need your variance. At the end of your presentation, if anyone in the audience would like to speak on your case, they will be given one opportunity to do so. Then the applicant can come back to the podium to answer their concerns. Once the public hearing is closed, no further information will be accepted concerning the case. There are 2 ways to find out about your case. You can call the planning office tomorrow after 12 p.m., or you can wait and be notified by mail. No adjournments tonight, so.
Nope. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first case on the agenda, case number 18849, Thomas DeSillis, 25 Loft Road, Smithtown. The location of the property is the east side of Loft Road, 170 feet south of Croft Lane. The property is zoned R43. The applicant is requesting variances to permit environmentally sensitive lands to be altered where depth of groundwater is equal to or less than 10 feet, to reduce the total side yards from 60 feet to 18 feet for proposed 320-square-foot sunroom.
Good evening.
Good evening. Christina Bravin, Morano Expediting, 2938 Hempstead Turnpike, Levittown. Agent for the applicant, Thomas DeSillis.
And you submitted all the paperwork, correct?
Yes, I did.
Fine, thank you.
Okay. We're requesting permission to construct a 20-foot by 16-foot non-heated sunroom, having a total side yard setback of 34 feet instead of the required 38 feet. And also permit environmentally sensitive lands to be altered where depth of the groundwater is less than 10 feet. Water was encountered at 6.8 feet. The proposed sunroom does not encroach into the side yard any further than the existing home. It's currently holding the home itself 32.8 feet. We're proposing 37.8 feet, so we're giving an additional 6 feet than the house currently holds. The sunroom will be flush with the first level of the house, which is approximately 4.6 feet above grade. One of the existing windows, as you can see on the, if you go back one, it'll be replaced by a door at the end of the hallway, and they'll enter the sunroom from the end of the hallway. So the overall height will be about 16 feet from grade to the ridge. It's a single-story sunroom addition. The deck height is 4.5 feet. So the property has been improved with a home and a garage since 1947. They have not encountered any issues with the structures due to the groundwater. And there's no alternate locations for this sunroom. If you have any questions, I have a full set of plans I'm happy to answer.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18850, John and Laura Flynn, 40 Ravenwood Drive, Kings Park. The location of the property is the west side of Ravenwood Drive, 250 feet south of Carriage Drive. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 38 feet for a proposed 16-square-foot front portico.
Mr. Chairman, I need to recuse myself on this application.
Fine. Good evening.
Good evening. John Flynn, 40 Ravenwood Drive, Kings Park, New York.
Okay,
Laura Flynn, 40 Ravenwood Drive, Kings Park, New York.
okay, fine.
So we're here tonight to request to reduce the minimum front yard from 40 feet to 38 feet for a portico that we want to install in the front of the house. Pretty straightforward.
Okay. Just like others in your neighborhood, right?
Yeah, well, so my street's called Ravenwood Drive. I think they can change it to Portico Drive. I mean, every other house has a portico. It's going to make the front of our house look a little nicer. My wife's been begging me for a portico for all these years. I've been resistant, so I finally gave and caved, and she'd like the portico. It would help. Happy wife, happy life.
Without a doubt. Thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application? No? Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Want to second it? Steve?
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
We're free to leave.
You're free to leave. Yeah. You send Mr. Tansy back.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18851, Jeffrey and Lindsay Basso, 6 Pawnee Drive, Comac. The location of the property is the south side of Pawnee Drive, 224 feet east of Hornet Road. The property is zoned R43. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 60 feet to 45 feet, which is existing at 50 feet, for a proposed 86-square-foot portico.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jeff Basso, 6 Pawnee Drive, Comac, New York, 11725. I, along with my wife Lindsay, are the applicants, and I want to authorize Michael Degnan, our architect, to present this evening.
Fine, thank you. Good evening.
Good
Could
evening.
Could you state your name and your address, please, and spell your last name so we get it correct on the record?
Be happy to. It's Michael Degnan, spelled D-U-I-G-N-A-N. Office is at 1943 Wantar Avenue, Wantar, New York. So the clients, our clients, Lindsay and Jeff, have been living in this house for 12 years. They have 2 young and growing children, 7 and 10. Majority of the work is for expanding the house for additional living space and bedrooms. With the proposal for a front portico, approximately 10 by 8, will benefit them to protect from inclement weather when entering the house, and also for additional curb appeal and scale. The front portico would be approximately 45 feet from the property line, where 50 feet is existing and 60 feet is required. Important to point out, I think, that the existing house is a lawful, non-conforming structure. As common throughout many Long Island hamlets, it appears that this property was rezoned since it was constructed. Majority of this lot is in R43, but in fact, a small portion is in R10. If the entire lot was in R10, it would, well, everything that we're requesting would be as of right. And all of the houses directly across the street are also R10 zoning. All of the proposed work is either over the existing house or otherwise conforms to all other zoning.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Excuse me. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18852, Catherine Plant, 3 Ridge Road, Fort Salonga. The location of the property is the northeast corner of Ridge Road and Glenview Avenue. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard setback on Ridge Road from 50 feet to 48 feet, to reduce the minimum side yard setback from 16 feet to 10 feet for a proposed 400-square-foot detached garage.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Plant. I live at 3 Ridge Road, Port Salonga. I have a very small, non-conforming home that has no large basement or attic space, and no garage. So I'm asking for a freestanding garage to be built on my property to help me with storage. There are several homes in my neighborhood that have these same freestanding garages. 1 is on my block and 4 are on the block that my house is on the corner of. So I'd like permission for my builder to construct that garage.
Okay. On your survey, it's indicated a garden area.
Right.
Is that where the garage is going to go? Or is it going to go before that garden area?
It's going to start before it and go into it.
It's before it, and it's going to go back into it?
Right.
But it's going to be 10 feet off the property line?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
Thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been
Thank
seconded.
you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18853, Stephen Zhao, 24 Ramsey Road, Comac. The location of the property, the west side of Ramsey Road, 315 feet north of Weldon Lane. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to increase the maximum permitted rear yard paving from 25% to 55%, which is existing, to increase the maximum permitted side yard paving from 25% to 32%, which is existing.
Good evening.
Good evening. Stephen Zhao at 24 Ramsey, Comac, New York 11725. Initially, our architect had told us that the portion under the roof was part of the house design and basically shouldn't count against the allowance. So he, in talking to contractors, he felt that it was okay, to pave as is and maybe a little bit over, but not as much. But initially, the reason why we're here is that because initially I wanted to design the backyard, the backyard patio area with like barbecues, fancy, right? And then we decided to take that away and just make it into flat surfaces. And the reason is because we have elderly parents living with us, and we wanted to put even surfaces, extend the areas by the walkway, by the stairs. So if you look at the drawing, it's basically where you will walk, right? You know, to have adequate space. So I have actually would like to submit a letter from my mom's doctor, you know, supporting the application.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. So my mother-in-law and my mother, they both have, you know, poor eyesight and with like macular degeneration, cataract. So I just wanted to put a space in the back for them to walk safely and also, you know, reduce the risk of falls. So that was the main motivation for it. Anything else? And I'd like to also call out to my neighbors, you know, who has been amazing during the whole process. You know, one of who's here, Joe, supporting, you know, this process as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want that doctor's note to be part of the record, or would you like it back?
Yeah, you could keep it as part of the record.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. 1 second. Yeah, 1 second. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No? Planning?
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience like to speak on this? Come on up.
Hi, I'm Josephine Goldman. I live at 29 Ramsey Road, directly across the street. The first I met this family was when they purchased the house, and I can tell you unequivocally, they have done nothing but improve the house and the neighborhood. And to think that one of the main reasons they want this variance is to accommodate their elderly parents. You know, in this day and age, it is practically unheard of. Plus, it looks beautiful. It's just an improvement. It's lovely.
Okay,
So, thank you.
thank you. Anyone else would like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18854, Gerard and Josephine Verricchio, 50 Lawrence Drive, Nesconset. The location of the property is the west side of Lawrence Drive, 436 feet north of Knollcrest Road. The property is zoned R15. The applicant is requesting variances to decrease the minimum distance from a rear lot line from 8 feet to 4 feet for an existing 282-square-foot shed, to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the rear yard from 25% to 44%, which is existing.
Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself in this case.
Fine.
Good
Good evening.
evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. I've submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing to Mr. Donadio. As you can see from the survey, along with the packet that you have, it's a vinyl shed, and it's on the right side of the property, pretty close to the rear. It looks like from the survey that there are substantial shrubbery and plantings in the back. There's nothing on the side. However, my client tells me he spoke to the neighbor on that side, and the neighbor has no objection to the shed being where it is. Additionally, we're asking for a variance to increase the impermeable portion of the rear yard from 25 to 44. As you can see, part of that impermeable area is a swimming pool, along with pavers surrounding the swimming pool. As this board knows, the applicant must contain all water emanating from on his property it must keep it on the property. We're in the process of obtaining a permit for the swimming pool. As Mr. and Mrs. Verricchio bought the house without the benefit of permits. They didn't know it. I didn't represent them, thank God, but anyway, we're fixing everything. So I want the board to know that the concern that you always have with water emanating from one property to the other will be looked at by the building department. We don't feel that this will have an adverse effect on the character of the area. There really is nothing we can do to change it at this point. Is the variance substantial? I think not, considering the fact that, again, the town always makes sure that we maintain the water coming from our property, on our property. Does it have any environmental effect? No, it does not. And was the difficulty self-created? Well, they should have been smarter and checked this out, and I don't know why that happened, but it did, and that's why we're here tonight. Thank you.
Tony doesn't think it's their fence.
I'm just going to ask. On the north side, right across from the shed, is that fence your client's, or is it the neighbor's fence?
No, that's my client's fence. But interestingly enough, we have to correct that too.
Because it's on the neighbor's property.
Yes. No, well, that's a good reason, but more importantly, the town does not, the building department wants the fence on our line because they have a concern that the neighbor may take down the fence and we don't have control over the fence. So we're working on that, absolutely.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions?
No, thank you.
No? Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Sabrina?
That was our question, but it was answered, so thank you regarding the fence.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18855, Michael Ryan, 136 Old Willets Path, Smithtown. The location of the property is the west side of Old Willets Path, 162 feet north of Woodland Lane. The property is zoned R43. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 60 feet to 52 feet for a proposed 200-square-foot roof over porch, to reduce the minimum east side yard setback from 24 feet to 20 feet for a proposed 570-square-foot first-floor addition, to reduce the minimum west side yard from 24 feet to 10 feet for a proposed 288-square-foot detached garage, to reduce the total side yards from 60 feet to 13 feet for the proposed first-floor addition and detached garage.
Good evening.
Good evening. Michael Ryan, 136 Old Willis Path, Smithtown. What I basically want to do is, I have a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom ranch. I want to make like a Cape-style house, an addition upstairs for 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, and an addition out the rear of the house, 15 feet, and the construction of a detached garage. And with the variance, I would be able to put the detached garage closer to the house, hopefully. And the front porch, I need the reduction of the setback for the front from 60 feet to 52 feet. And the other setbacks I need reduced also. I want to be able to enjoy the house. I don't want to put the garage all the way in the back. It'd be too far away, you know? Okay. I think that's it.
What you submitted, you have a detached garage. Are you trying to get 3 cars into that garage?
No,
No, because it's not going
no,
to fit.
it's only one car garage.
Okay, because it shows 3.
Yeah, that's,
And it's only 24 foot, so
yes,
that wouldn't work.
no.
Okay. Anyone on the board have any questions?
I guess my question would be, it appears that you're orienting that garage sideways. Will the entrance be on the side?
Yes.
Is there any reason you can't turn it the other way so that,
Well, I can, but I want to be able to park next to the garage without blocking the,
without park, okay.
You know what I mean?
It's just if you turn it the other way, you could increase that setback a little.
yeah, well, I really don't want to do that if I could get away with it, you know?
Okay, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Oh, I had another question for planning. It had the total side yards going from 60 to 13.
That's right.
I don't understand that.
There is an existing detached structure in the rear side yard.
I see it, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18856, Ronald Pucci, 26 Marvin Drive, Kings Park. The location of the property is the south side of Marvin Drive, 156 feet east of Fifth Avenue. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 29 feet for an existing 198 square foot front wood deck with ramp. Reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 39 feet, and to reduce the minimum side yard setback from 12 feet to 11 feet for a proposed 912 square foot second floor addition.
Good evening.
Good evening. Ronald Pucci, 26 Marvin Drive, Kings Park, and permission to represent.
Okay, fine. Again, could you state your name, spell your last name so we get it correct for the record, please,
Sure.
and your address?
Gennaro Cozzolino, Cozzolino, 2125 Deer Park Avenue, Deer Park, New York, 11729.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Gennaro Cozzolino for Ronald Pucci, residing at 26 Marvin Drive, Kings Park. Also known as Section 25, Block 6, Lot 49, located in the R10 zoning district. We're requesting relief from the board to construct a new second floor addition and maintain an existing front deck with ramp. The proposed addition requires a variance for addition to a lawful non-conforming structure, variance for side yard setback, permission to build at 11 feet from permitted 12 feet, a difference of 1 foot, In regards to the deck and ramp, they require variance for front yard setback, permission to maintain 29 feet from permitted 40 feet, a difference of 11 feet. As to the second floor addition, permission to build, front yard variance required to build at 39 feet instead of permitted 40 feet, a difference of 1 foot. This project is not a substantial variance. We're building within the footprint of the existing house, not encroaching any further into the existing front yard setback. The proposed addition will comply with all other zoning requirements, will have no significant impact to the environment, will not affect any of the adjacent properties, and will fit in with the character and nature of the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Sabrina?
DEW has the following comment. The current application to create 7 bedrooms requires a permit from the Suffolk County Department of Health. The applicants have submitted a signed and notarized statement that they have submitted the necessary application to the Department of Health for this project. Therefore, DEW has no comments regarding this type 2 application.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Excuse me. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
The next application on the agenda is case number 18857, Gregory and Samantha Alonso, 5 Brooks Avenue, Smithtown. The location of the property, the east side of Brooks Avenue, 200 feet north of Smithtown Boulevard. The property is zoned R15. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum rear yard setback from 60 feet to 49 feet, which is existing at 40 feet, for a proposed 1,577 square foot second floor addition.
Good evening.
Either one.
Hi, Samantha Alonso, 5 Brooks Avenue, Wisconsin.
And Greg Alonso, 5 Brooks Ave, Wisconsin, and we give Gennaro permission to speak on our behalf.
Fine. Thank you very much. Just state your name again for the record, please.
Sure. Gennaro Cozzolino, 2125 Deer Park Avenue, Deer Park, New York, 11729. I'm here for the homeowners, Gregory and Samantha Alonso, residing at 5 Brooks Avenue, Wisconsin, New York, 11767, also known as Section 166, Block 4, Lot 22, located in the R15 zone. We're requesting a relief from the board to construct a new second floor addition. The proposed addition requires a variance for addition to a lawful non-conforming structure and variance for rear yard setback. Permission to build at 39 feet from permitted 60 feet, a difference of 21 feet, where 40 feet was previously approved by the zoning board. Where this is not a substantial variance, we're building within the footprint of the house. The proposed addition will comply with all other zoning requirements, will have no significant impact to the environment, will not affect any of the adjacent properties, and will fit in with the character and nature of the neighborhood.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
No? Planning?
No, thank you.
Sabrina?
The current application to create 6 bedrooms requires a permit from the Suffolk County Department of Health. The applicants have submitted a signed and notarized statement that they have submitted the necessary application to the Department of Health. DEW has no further comments on this type 2 application. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Have a good night.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18858, Jeffrey Garone, 93 Berg Avenue, Kings Park. The location of the property, the north side of Berg Avenue, 462 feet east of Avenue B. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 38 feet for a proposed 1,060 square foot second floor addition.
Good evening.
Good evening. Jeffrey Garone, 93 Berg Ave, and I'm letting Gennaro speak on our behalf.
Fine, thank you.
Gennaro Cozzolino, 2125 Deer Park Avenue, Deer Park, New York, 11729. Here for Jeffrey Garone, residing at 93 Berg Avenue, Kings Park, also known as Section 13, Block 1, Lot 5, located in the R10 zone. Requesting relief to construct a second floor addition with front cantilever. The proposed addition requires a variance for lawful nonconforming structure and for front yard setback. Permission to build at 38 feet from permitted 40 feet, a difference of 2 feet. This is not a substantial variance request. We're building within the footprint of the existing house. Only the cantilever on the second floor would be encroaching 2 feet into the front yard setback. The proposed addition will comply with all other zoning requirements, will have no significant impact to the environment, will fit in with the character and nature of the neighborhood.
All right, thank you.
Okay?
Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. One more.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18859, Brian and Isabella Buxton, 6 Freeman Avenue, Wisconsin. The location of the property, the south side of Freeman Avenue, 150 feet west of Spectacle Lake Drive. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 25 feet for a proposed 286 square foot first floor addition.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Brian Buxton, 6 Freeman Avenue, Wisconsin, New York, and we give Gennaro to speak on our behalf.
Fine, thank you. Once again, just
One more
introduce
time,
yourself.
Gennaro Cozzolino for the homeowners, Brian and Isabella Buxton, residing at 6 Freeman Avenue, Wisconsin, also known as Section 171, Block 1, Lots 21 and 22, located in the R10 zone. Requesting relief to build a one-story side addition with fireplace. Proposed addition requires a variance for lawful non-conforming structure and for front yard setback. Permission to build at 25 feet from permitted 40 feet, a difference of 15 feet. Variance is not substantial. We're staying within the existing front yard setback of the house, not encroaching any further. The addition will comply with all other zoning requirements, will have no significant impact to the environment, and will fit in with the character and nature of the neighborhood.
All right, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No? Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? May I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you, good evening.
Good evening now.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18803, 920 West Jericho Corp. The location of the property is 920 West Jericho Turnpike in Smithtown, the south side of Jericho Turnpike, 1,500 feet west of Bridge Branch Road. The property is zoned WSI. The applicant is requesting a special exception for a trucking station, a variance of a special exception standard to reduce the minimum buffer to a residence district from 50 feet to 2 feet. A variance request to reduce the minimum required distance to a residence district from 25 feet to 20 feet for outdoor storage. To decrease the minimum setback of a 4-foot retaining wall from the rear lot line from 4 feet to 2 feet. To permit environmentally sensitive lands to be altered, slopes greater than 15%, and suspected high groundwater. Reduce the required planting buffer to a residence district from 10 feet to 2 feet. Eliminate the required 6-foot screen fence to a residence district. Reduce the parking setback to a residence district from 25 feet to 4 feet. To reduce the minimum drive aisle width from 24 feet to 15 feet for an existing commercial property.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. I've submitted the affidavit of posting to Mr. Donadio. I'm sure the board remembers that we were here a while ago, and as it turns out, the neighbors were very concerned about our application. So what we did is we asked this board for an adjournment, and sometime, I guess about a month ago, we met with the, not only with the planning department, we met with Bill White, Director of Buildings, Peter Hans, Planning Director, Blaise Donadio was there also, and I think Liam Trotta, also of the Planning Department. And what we did was we brought our architect in and tried to alleviate most of the variances that were requested in order to take into account the neighbors' concerns. And I think we did a good job. We worked, we probably were there about an hour and a half, and we took each point or each request and tried to figure out how we could eliminate it or moderate it so that it wouldn't be as aggressive as it was before. So a couple of things that that happened is, for example, the drive aisle with they were, I think the smallest one was 15 or 16. They're now 20 as opposed to the required 24. I'm kind of going backwards, but there was a request for a screen fence, and I don't know how or why it was 8 feet, but obviously that hasn't been advertised, and we certainly would put up the 6-foot screen fence, which is permissible, and we don't have to re-advertise for that. Really, the buffer yard variance is one that we've requested, and I think it's still there, and that is going from the required 50 feet to 25 feet. And the outside storage is now 25 feet, so we don't need a variance for that. Now, the retaining wall is should be 4 feet, but it's only 2 feet. But I think we can work that out too. I don't know if I missed anything. Blaise, is there any other? Actually, the environmentally sensitive land variance is still there. I can't change that. There's a steep slope. So, but we submitted a new plan. Actually, we sent it in, I think, about a week ago on the CAD, and we dropped off hard copies to the planning department.
Is that dated 10?
I'm sorry?
December 19th? I want to make sure we're looking at the right plan.
Oh,
You are. It's the correct plan.
It's the correct plan.
Yes.
Okay.
We received that by email December 19th, and then received hard copies of it on the 10th
All right.
or the 9th.
Thank you.
right, okay.
No, no, I'll put it still.
Did you have a question of Mr. Donadio?
Well, yeah, there's supposed to be a PAR, but I know it was kind of difficult for Blaze to come up with a new PAR, so I just would ask for his comments on our meeting that we had and how he feels about verbalizing a PAR, a current PAR.
I'd be happy to. Does the board have any questions, or?
I just have one quick one. So the reduction in the buffer from the residence district is still at 2 feet, because the district boundary line is within the applicant's property. The buffer reduction from 50 to 2 is still required because that the district boundary line is within the applicant's property, correct?
Right.
That was just my question.
We were there yesterday. Now, there's an existing retaining wall there. Is that coming down, or is that remaining in the exact location?
We would like to keep it in the exact location, but I'm not so sure that the planning department would like it in that spot,
Okay,
so.
1 second. If you'd like to speak, could you introduce yourself, please?
State your name and address.
My name is Walter Romero, Associate AIA, 67 Arbor Lane, Dix Hills, New York. I'm representing the designer, the owner, and the end user. So the new proposal that we have here is moving the wall 2 feet more inward.
Just 2 feet.
Yeah.
Okay. So that wall there is to be taken down and a new wall put up, right?
So
Well,
the
block
purpose the reason why we put the retaining wall was to mitigate for landslides coming down, right? If we were to move the retaining wall, it would require more infill, which was not there initially. Before, it was the grade we're adding the green, the 25 feet of greenery in front of the retaining wall. It's gonna be trees and bushes.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna be masking the retaining wall. Apart from that, there's a fence going through the front.
One second.
It would be masked by the greenery, right? There's gonna be trees and shrubbery.
So let me just understand, by moving that retaining wall up 2 feet, that gives you 25 feet?
No. So that would be from what's it called, the rear yard of greenery that we have. The retaining wall, I think we had to, right? Yeah, because we're putting a curve about 25 feet from the property line.
I guess outdoor storage in back of the building, how deep does that go?
The outdoor storage does not require the variance anymore.
I understand that.
It's 25 feet.
It's 25 feet.
25 feet, yes.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody on the board have any questions? Anyone?
Well, just to clarify, you're gonna have 25 feet of outdoor storage. At the end of the outdoor storage, you're gonna have a curb.
Yeah.
25 feet from the curb, you're gonna have a new retaining wall that's gonna be 2 feet in front of where the old retaining wall was.
Yes.
Okay.
That's to accommodate for the fence that we're gonna put on top of where the current retaining wall is.
Got it.
Blaze?
Okay. So, did you want to say something?
Usually there's a recommendation in the PAR. I don't know if,
The original PAR outlined pretty much all of the recommendations we made with respect to the changes we wanted to see on the site plan, provide the 25-foot densely planted buffer, meet the parking setback to the residence district, provide the adequate parking. There was a bunch of variances that were eliminated from this revised plan. The applicant did most of everything that we wanted them to do, and the plan reflects the majority of recommendations that we made. A couple of things that we would recommend to be added to this proposal is that the retaining wall that's existing there now, which is 2 feet from the property line, it's commonly referred to as a mafia block wall. So it's a segmented wall that can be moved with a bobcat or a backhoe or what have you. It's not like a engineered wall that's put together by a mason and cemented in place, and then once it's put in place, it's impossible to remove. This is pretty much a portable, movable wall. So our recommendation would be, number one, that the block wall that's currently existing 2 feet from the property line be moved forward to the 25-foot buffer setback from the rear property line, and that backfill go behind the block wall, and that's where all of the densely planted buffer material would go. 2 reasons. Number one, by moving the wall forward and having the 3-foot or 4-foot wall at that 25-foot buffer setback line, it delineates the outdoor storage from the buffer. Secondly, because the wall will be there, it's going to be more difficult for anybody to encroach into that buffer area once the wall and the buffer is established. The second thing is that for the people who live behind this property, by moving the wall forward, backfilling up to the height of the wall, and doing a 1-on-3 grade as it is proposed on the existing site plan, would provide those residents with a higher, greater, denser buffer that would help block what they're looking at now from their backyards. So we would like to see that done. Secondly, they are proposing to plant the buffer, but we would recommend, whether it be that the board approves it now or it's done through the site plan review process, that the buffer be planted a little bit more densely and provide a little bit more screening for the people in the residence district to the south.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Sabrina?
DEW has the following comment. The proposed removal of natural vegetation along the rear of the property, leaving a reduced buffer between the proposed trucking station and the existing residential neighborhood, raises concerns regarding potential adverse noise, visual and fugitive light impacts upon the adjacent residents. In order to ensure full compliance with SEQR and the consideration of all potential environmental impacts associated with this proposal, we wish to consider information presented by the applicant as well as any comments from the public. Therefore, no decision will be made tonight. Thank you.
So there's no sequel.
thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Okay. Good evening.
Hi, how are you? Brittany Pillow Mustafa. The last name is P-A-L-I-L-L-O. Mustafa, M-O-S-T-A-F-A, 22 Ivy Hill Drive. So I am opposite the street that we're talking about. I'm right on the, you get what I mean, the opposite side. Purchased the house 2018 with my husband, mainly because of the pines. Very, very lucky to be there. Very lucky to be surrounded by so much greenery, so much trees. Being that we back Jericho Turnpike, it's unbelievable how quiet it is because the trees absorb the noise. The greenery, vegetation, all of it. You can't hear anything at night, can't hear anything in the morning. We're very lucky. I think it negatively impacts not only the residents, the environment. I don't see 2 feet being a suitable border here between a trucking station and our street. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and others. My name is Jim Rose of Sir Tillman, Ballin, Adler and Hyman. I'm a lawyer. I'm representing Emily Rose, who's seated right here. She's the resident owner of 35 Ivy Hill Drive. That is the property that's immediately south of and adjacent to the subject property. Okay? I also happen to be Emily Rose's son. So I want to note that there was one neighbor before me that voiced her objection. In addition, the last time we were here, there were several neighbors here that voiced their objection. Today, they are not here, but what I want to submit for the record, That's all on the record, though, yes. whatever they said.
Yeah, that was previously on the record. I placed their names on the record. What I would like to submit as well is a letter that was signed by 7 other neighbors. It's not a long letter. I'm going to read it into the record and then hand it to you. It's because of the 7 residences that have signed it. It says, "Dear Board of Zoning Appeals, we, the undersigned, are opposed to the variance special exception application affecting property 920 West Jericho Turnpike, Smithtown, New York. We live in a residential setting, and the changes requested will negatively impact our homes, property, and quality of life. The primary concern is the negative impact of air pollution and smell from the running trucks and heavy equipment all hours of the day and night. The noise pollution along the homes by this property line, by adding heavy equipment stations and reducing the buffer zones, will increase noise pollution and would travel freely across the road, especially during autumn and winter months when trees and vegetation are thin. In addition to the neighbors who are attending the public hearing on January 10th, 2023, we demand the Smithtown Board of Zoning Appeals reject in full the variance special exception application." And this is signed, I'll read them quickly, by Cindy and Jonathan Corcado at 28 Ivy Hill Drive, by Regina A. Fister, F-I-S-T-E-R, at 23 Ivy Hill Drive, by Robin Schmidt at 15 Ivy Hill Drive, and William Schmidt, by Ali Cole, K-O-L, at 32 Ivy Hill Drive, Smithtown, by Richard Martino at 4 Ivy Hill Drive, by Marta Loreni, or L-O-R-E-N-E-Y, at 8 Bridge Branch Road, which is an intersecting road of Ivy Hill Drive, by Cheryl and Stephen Panzini at 19 Ivy Hill Drive, by Rita and Robert DiStefano, D-I-S-T-E-F-A-N-O, at 27 Ivy Hill Drive, and lastly, by Charles Reidand, R-E-I-D-A-N-D, and Elizabeth Dini, D-I-N-I, at 31 Ivy Hill Drive. I'd like to submit this for the record.
This will be put in the record. So, we are talking about, let's see. We are talking about environmentally sensitive land, as was mentioned, because of the slope that we are, that is on the subject property. If you look at the revised plan that was provided, Mr. Donadio, could you pull that up? Oh, okay. You will see that Mrs. Rose's property is directly adjacent to and abuts the concrete wall that you were referring to, that temporary block wall, okay? That is her property, okay? There's a notation in those plans that says scattered trees, that says scattered, I'll tell you. Let me pull that out for a minute.
if you look at the highlighted area where the shrubbery is highlighted, just to the south of that, there is the concrete wall. And then there is approximately 20 feet of space that was termed scattered trees and vegetation. You guys see that? Okay, that's actually Miss Rose's property. That is not town property, that is not the applicant's property. That is Miss Rose's property. Okay, so her property goes right up to the applicant's property. Now, there's a chain link fence of Miss Rose's that runs to the south of that section they call scattered trees and vegetation. It almost looks like it's like uninhibited, unmanicured or landscaped property that's not owned by her, but it is. That's her property. On October 10th, a day before the last hearing date, Ms. Rose hired Mr. Drucker, who is a surveyor, to do a survey of her property line, just to confirm where it was. And he confirmed it with stakes. And he confirmed that it was right up to the property of the applicant. Okay, I provided the board, I provided Blaze with, and the board and others with an email copy of the survey that I'm referring to. Do you have it?
I could not open it.
Right here.
Right here.
I think it's in your packet.
Oh, it's in there? Okay.
Is that the Drucker?
Yeah. We'll give you this one to look at. I have one.
Oh, okay. I have a copy here.
Okay. Does everybody over here have a copy? Because I have a hard copy. It's hard to see it over there. Does anybody do that? So, Mr. Drucker confirmed that the property of Miss Rose goes right up to the concrete block wall. Applicant's first plans sought to eliminate the 50-foot buffer and, operate a driving aisle right there next to Miss Rose's property. The plans have since been revised based on the, the consideration of the planning board, I guess. But if you look at the Drucker survey, you will see Mrs. Rose's property a little more clearly and the fence that she has on the property, okay? Just for an understanding of where these properties meet and what the applicant is trying to accomplish here. So, I haven't seen it yet in any of the records, but if you continue to look at the property, at the bottom, at the most northerly point of Miss Rose's property, and along Ivy Hill Drive's residences, to the west of the applicant's, to the east of the applicant's property, there was and is a stream that runs back there. There is a water stream that runs back there. And it ran through Miss Rose's property, in between the applicant's property and Miss Rose's property, into the creek on the west side of the applicant's property for decades. It is now not there, or at least I do not see that stream. But I confirmed 30 days ago with the neighbor next door, who personally went behind the fence and observed the stream, that it is still there, as close to the applicant's property as 33 Ivy Hill Drive, which is the property immediately west of 35 Ivy Hill Drive, Miss Rose's property. That is what I consider a very important reason that this is environmentally sensitive land, in addition to the slope of Miss Rose's property. When we talk about slope of property, when the applicant and Mr. Tramarko talk about slope of property, The slope of the applicant's property is 0. There is no slope on their property. It's leveled. The slope they're referring to is Miss Rose's property. There's no other property there. So that's property that should be protected, okay? Does anybody have a question from a geographical standpoint about the property lines and anything I said so far?
No.
Okay. I previously sent in photographs. Mr. Donadio, Blaze, if you don't mind, could you put those up? Okay. So these are photographs taken after April 3rd of 2022. What you will see, if you can scroll through them, what you will see is the applicant's property with the bulldozer. If you could stop on that picture right there. That property is Miss Rose's property. That property was a densely populated brush area on Miss Rose's property. It is now practically empty. The applicant or somebody on his behalf cleared out Miss Rose's property on or about April 3rd, 2022. A complaint was filed with the town. The town inspector came on a week later and issued a stop work order for outside work and inside work. And nothing has been done to Miss Rose's property by anyone since then. There's more pictures of Miss Rose's property if you can scroll, please. There's another one right there. That is bulldozed. We have video, which I sent in, of people, tree cutters at the top of the trees, cutting the trees down. I don't know why it was done.
Whose fence is that up on top?
That's Miss Rose's fence.
That's her fence up there.
That's her fence.
Her property does not extend beyond that fence, though, does it?
No, her property does extend. Yeah.
Here.
Yeah, I know, he showed me.
I know. Her property goes right down to the concrete. That's all her property. And it was all heavily, densely populated with brush and foliage and vegetation and trees. And now it's not, okay? That's all her property. The fence, she moved in some, 20 feet or so, but that's all her property.
Okay.
Now, the applicant initially wanted to make a drive aisle right there on the concrete, right next to Miss Rose's property in the first round. And that was, has since been changed in the revised plans. But I'm going to get to the revised plans in a little while. I submit to you that the special exception and variances that are sought by the applicant should be denied in its entirety. The application is substantial and would be harmful to the residents of Ivy Hill Drive, Miss Rose, and the neighbors as well on Ivy Hill Drive for a number of reasons. I submit that any benefit that the applicant claims it will receive from a granting of the variances and special use permit is outweighed by the detriment that it will cause to the neighbors of Ivy Hill Drive and the community. The application would produce undesirable changes in the character of the neighborhood. It would have an undesirable visual impact. if a trucking station were permitted on the property, in that the trucks, in that the happenings of the business that takes place on that property can be seen by the residents on Ivy Hill Drive. And if there's big old trucks in and out of that place, it would be a distraction and a disruption to the residents and their, their lives and enjoyment of the property that they live on. Likewise, there'd be an undesirable audible impact of the residents and community if a trucking station were permitted, in that the trucks, no doubt, make a lot of noise and disrupt the neighborhood. There's people, Miss Rose enjoys her backyard with her family. And the neighbors that are to her left and right do the same thing. And the trucks and the noise would no doubt cause a disruption to the residential zone and to the families of Ivy Hill Drive. Most importantly, it would create a harmful environmental impact to the residences of Ivy Hill Drive and the community itself for a number of reasons. There would be pollution in the air from the exhaust and fumes and dust and debris and emissions in the from the commercial trucks that are operated. There's no way to prevent that. And the residents of Ivy Hill Drive would be subjected to that on a daily basis. After conferring with Ms. Rose, she would like the board to know that, and I'm going to read this because these are her words, that an additionally significant personal concern of hers is the harmful emissions that trucking exhaust creates in their use and operations, including cancer-causing contaminants. According to her research on the DEC website, the idling of trucks of a certain weight for more than 5 minutes is illegal. Engine pollution harms the environment and our health. Cars and trucks are considered mobile sources of air pollution. New York State, along with many other states, joined together in an initiative to put 3.3 million non-exhaust vehicles on the road by 2025, thus reducing vehicle pollution. Carbon monoxide fumes are poisonous gas. Prolonged exposure to these fumes can cause damage to lungs, cancer, heart disease, COPD. The U.S. Environment Protection Agency identified 21 chemicals found in truck exhausts that are known or suspected to cause cancer or other serious health effects. Benzene and formaldehyde are just 2 of those found. Specifically, she stated that she's afraid for her health and safety because she expects that with use and operations of a trucking station, there will be harmful emissions that go through the air, and with her house and property in such close proximity to the applicant's property, she is afraid that she will become subject to such conditions and personally harmed. Also, environmentally, this would have an adverse impact on the existing steep slope and high groundwater that I mentioned, in that the running of the stream might be impacted by what is being asked of the town. And that could lead to flooding and could lead to misdirection of the flow of the water and other environmental concerns that would affect the ecology of the system down there. There is a creek down there. I'm not sure why the water is not flowing through 35 Ivy Hill Drive's backyard, but it is flowing in 33 Ivy Hill Drive. And that water should be going past 35 into the creek. It's been there for the decades, like I mentioned, and I'm not certain why it's not there now, but it's something to consider. Referring to the damage that was caused to Miss Rose's backyard, I would like to submit for the record photographs taken before and after the April 2022 incident that I referred to. As through Miss Rose's kitchen window. She took those photos herself. And what it shows is that as a result of what was done, there's a clear view of 920's, property and their storage facility, which abuts, which they've already, it looks like a tin storage facility, which they put behind the building already. And there's multiple old tires on top of that already. It looks, in my opinion, terrible. And it's just an indication of what's to come. If the town were to permit this to move forward. Okay. In addition, if the town were to permit such special use and variance application, it would set a precedence. You may already know, based on reviewing this record, that Ivy Hill Drive runs parallel to Jericho on its most, and the neighbors' houses on Ivy Hill Drive are similarly situated to 35 Ivy Hill Drive, in that they are directly south of the businesses that are on Jericho Turnpike, on the south side of Jericho Turnpike. So if this application is granted, it will no doubt act as a precedent to anyone else that wants to ask for similar relief from the town for the whole row of businesses that stretch both east and west of 920 Jericho Turnpike. In addition, there are, in my opinion, less substantial alternatives that could occur here to eliminate the request of the applicant. Mainly, the applicant chose to purchase this property in November of 2021, being charged with having the obligation of being well aware of what it's permitted to do and what it's not permitted to do in the town and on the property. The applicant chose to purchase the property and right away sought to make changes and ask for special permissions. What that applicant has the ability to do is not run trucks on the property, run a business that doesn't involve trucks on the property, run its business with the trucks put in another location aside from the property. In addition, there's parking in the front of the property, on the most northerly side of the property, on the north side of the building, which can be used. And if special permission is needed to use those spots, then so be it. If less parking is now available, then so be it. We submit that the application should be denied in its entirety. And, but even if you were to consider granting it in some way, there's, that 50-foot buffer needs to be in place from between Miss Rose's property and the trucks that applicant seeks to park, maintain, and use on the property. We do not want a trucking station on the property, but if it's going to be there because the town is going to approve it, then at least there must be a respect for that 50-foot buffer. The town knows that that one of the standards for special use is that there must be densely planted buffer at least 50 foot deep adjacent to residential districts. Okay? That has never been put in these plans, not in the first round from the applicant, not in the second round from the applicant. Instead, what the applicant is asking is that the 50-foot buffer that it will need to create on their property, that it be reduced in half to 25 feet. And that, in our opinion, is simply insufficient. It's unacceptable. It doesn't alleviate any of the problems that were discussed, that I mentioned and raised. It's not the answer to what is being sought here. If you look at the revised plans, to the right, the storage container, the tin storage container that's contained right immediately behind on the south part of the building is proposed to stay there, and vegetation is proposed to occupy the 25 feet south of that storage facility, that storage container. Now, if you look to the left of that storage container, the applicant is proposing eight parking spots where it will park commercial trucks, which will be 25 feet from Miss Rose's property. That's not enough. it proposes a catch basin at the low point. A catch basin for what? For the contaminants that are leaked by the trucks? For, no doubt, the work that would be done to maintain the trucks at the property line right there? 25 feet of vegetation is simply insufficient, and we ask that if at all, if it's gonna be considered at all, and that you are gonna allow this to happen, that there should be the 50-foot buffer in that area that would go as far as the building. Now, that would mean that parking spots 1 through 8 would have to be removed from his plan. Okay, so be it. There's more parking available on the pavement. There's, as I said, you can park to the north. There's room on this big piece of property to park. You don't need to push back the buffer and have trucks parked right there. That's not what the purpose of the requirements are. Now, I understand everybody has different interests here, and the applicant's interested in, running a business. I have nothing personal. I don't even know who the applicant is. The applicant's a corporation. We don't know from anybody. And overlooking for the moment the fact that they were on Miss Rose's property and removed the private buffer that she had in place, and that hasn't been resolved yet. Overlooking that for the moment. The interests of the applicant should not supersede the interests of the residents, because the residents have been there for a long time. And the residential district is there, and the standards that are there to protect the residents. Ms. Rose is 73 years old and has lived there for 45 years. She raised her family there. This is not acting.
I didn't hear what you said.
She raised her family there. She now enjoys being visited by her children, her grandchildren, her nieces and nephews. She wants to remain there peacefully, without interruption, without concern, without fear of public harm. Of personal harm. She's asking, as a result of that the application be denied in its entirety. Is there anything else? Is there anything else you want me to say? Do you want to be heard, or are you okay? Okay. Are you sure?
Oh, I can't get this mask off.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Emily Rose. I have,
You
Good
just
evening.
state your name for the record.
Emily Rose. I'm Emily Rose. I'm a resident of Smithtown. I lived in my house for 45 years. I love my house. I love my town. For this to happen is beyond belief. I cannot believe it. I'm very concerned with the value of my home going down, depreciating, and also the main thing are the chemicals from this business that they want to put behind my house. I spoke to the neighbors. I've got 16 families all on board and agree with everything that I say. They reject the whole thing. I took pictures today out of my kitchen window, and I showed you the pictures. I gave you the pictures. All I see is this man's backyard, emptiness, Jericho. They took all my trees down, 95% of my trees. Nobody even knew that they came on my property and chopped all these trees down. I knew my fence wasn't at the end of my property, so I had to get a surveyor to find out where the end was. And he told me, yes, they went on your property. This is your property. Nobody gave them permission. I called I went to the planning board, the building department, the environmental department. I went every single department you could go to. I spoke to somebody, and they told me, if they continue to cut those trees down, give me a call. And I did. I called the person, I got a name, and he says, as soon as they cut those trees, you call me, and I did. And they continued to cut somebody came down and gave them a stop order, but they continued to cut the trees down. I watched them with their bobcats, their tractors, or whatever. I'm not against anybody trying to make a business or trying to make money, not at all. But not if it's going to hurt the people around them with their chemicals. I go to the supermarket every time, and I watch what I buy because I try to eat healthy for me and my family. And now I have to think about chemicals in the air. You people on the board, you're adults. You're not young kids. You know what it's like. You know what the chemicals can do to you. Please, I'm 73 years old. I want to live in my house, enjoy Smithtown, which I love, and not have to think about unhealthiness. That's all I really can say. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you done, Mr. Rose?
Yes, thank you.
You're done?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else in the audience want to speak on this application? Sir, do you want to speak on it? I know you came in late. No? All right, I'm going to bring Mr. Tramarko up to answer some of your concerns.
Well, I guess we tried, but we didn't try hard enough. And again, we certainly understand our direct neighbor to the rear's concerns. However, even when our neighbor first moved into the property on Ivy Hill Drive, all of Jericho Turnpike was zoned commercial, zoned WSI. This was nothing new. This didn't happen last year, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I would venture to say it probably happened in the 60s or the 70s. And that's not to say that the neighbors on Ivy Hill Drive shouldn't have a right to be comfortable and live their lives in a fashion that the businesses below them, and I say below them because our neighbor mostly affected by it is probably 30 feet at least higher, where you saw that top fence pointed out by council, her fence at the top of her, I guess you would call it, the top of the ridge or the top of the hill. And so there's a fence up there. I don't know how from her kitchen window she could see this way and then down 20 feet, but, you know, be that as it may, again, we understand her concerns, and we tried to fix them as best we could. If we could move the trucks up front, and that would be a benefit to the neighbors in the rear, fine. We have, I think it's 8 trucks?
8 trucks. And I would like to mention.
How many trucks?
8 trucks right now.
8 trucks?
Yeah, and I would like to mention.
You have to come up. You can't
Okay,
sit-
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have.
So we're requesting that we add 8 trucks as a trucking station. I would like to mention that previously it was owned by Limousine and used for parking of their trucking and their limos for years until we bought it. They never got a permit for it. Whatever.
Well, and prior to that, there were other business uses there. One of the funny things about trucking stations, I don't even know why Smithtown has that rule, because when you really think about a trucking station, it's like I don't know, a depot for a Coca-Cola business or some sort of other, say, an Amazon. Of course, Amazon is much bigger, but trucks that go in and out. My client's business is the trucks leave in the morning, they start up, they leave in the morning, and they come back at night. It's not a situation where trucks come in and out. If you go all along Jericho Turnpike, for example, General Tire, clients of mine, they probably have 30 cars a day in and out all day long. They're not required to be a trucking station, maybe because they don't just fix trucks, they fix cars also. But the problem with the pollution is there. If you go down the line, right next door to my office, there was a, they just sold it, but there was a machinery repair place. Machines going, testing all day long. Again, by my office and all along on the south side, the properties, the residential properties are at least 20 to 30 feet higher than the business that are located below. With respect to, and again, this is our neighbor's property that comes all the way down to our property line, and it is a slope, but, and we understand it's her slope. If accidentally, my client, and I'm not saying they did or they didn't, knock down trees that were our neighbor's trees, then they certainly have an action against us. So far, I haven't seen any lawsuit of any type, nor has anybody come to us and said, look, you knocked down 30 trees, 20 trees, please replant and fix what you did. That never happened. And I'm not, saying that we did or we didn't, but we certainly would be amenable to talking to the neighbor. With respect to the stream, I can tell you I've been there for 50 years. And there is a stream, but you can't see the stream. It's not like you would see a babbling brook in the back. I think it's probably 1 or 2 feet underground. I remember being in an office further east from where my office is, and we were sitting in the office, and it had vents in the floor, I guess for heating, and you could actually hear water. So there's no question that, there's a high water table there, but it's not water that's running in the back of the property, and we're blocking a stream. It just happens to be there. I don't know how it got there, but neither my client or any of those buildings back there had any reason to block the stream or change its course. So again, I want to make it clear that if there's a way that we can work with all of the neighbors, and most importantly, the neighbor that lives right behind us, we're willing to do that. But it's true, we are a business, we're in business to make money, and our business happens to be a roofing business. And to have a roofing business, you have to have trucks. They're not trucks that'll, and we do have a rule, by the way, that you can't idle a truck for more than, I think, 3 or 4 or 5 minutes before you leave, the premises. And I think that's been enforced for many years. I don't know, Blaze, maybe you know, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't there a rule about that?
Off the top of my head, I do recall that somewhere in the ordinance it says there's no overnight idling of trucks. I don't know what the specific time frame is for starting a vehicle and let it warm up or whatever the case may be. State law is 5 minutes? Okay.
So, look, in any event, we do want to get along with our neighbors. We're not going to go away. It's a permitted use. A roofing business, a plumbing business, a repair garage, they're all permitted uses. We need the special exception because of the, I think, silly reason, silly ordinance that says, okay, anything more than, I think it's 3 trucks, it's a trucking station. And really, I don't think that was what was meant by that ordinance. But we have to comply with it, and certainly we will. Again, if we can move the trucks further away, we will. We don't have a problem with doing that. We want to be good neighbors, you know, with respect to council saying, well, we bulldozed down this and we did that. If we did, and they come to us and we'll talk to them about it, fine. But that's a different issue than what's before this board. I don't think the board's in a position, or should they, punish us if they think we did something wrong, but which we didn't, or I don't know if we did or we didn't. So, anyway, look, we're gonna be there. Hopefully, we'll work it out with the neighbors. I'm willing to sit down with council and try and work it out. So, with that, I guess we're through for tonight.
All right, thank you. No, you got one opportunity. He comes back, and that's it. You done, Mr. Tremont?
Yes,
All right,
yeah.
thank you. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. And that concludes the hearing for tonight.